This is In Studio. I'm Jay Daniels. Recently, I had the pleasure of interviewing jazz vocalist Cecile McLorin Salvant. She has recently put out a new album called The Window, and it's available from Mac Avenue Records. During our conversation, Cecile and I discussed some of her own inspirations behind the music. Cecile, your latest release for Mac Avenue, The Window, it features a quaint, intimate setting, and you're accompanied by pianist Sullivan Fortner. The album is a combination of Broadway standards such as Bernstein's Somewhere and also The Gentleman is a Dope from Allegro. There's also a lesser-known composition that was new for me, actually, called One Step Ahead, and I believe Aretha Franklin did that in the late 60s. Thinking about the overall concept for the album The Window, what was your thinking as far as putting these songs together in this particular lineup?
Well, I usually don't have a concept when I record an album, and we kind of come up with the concept afterwards for the purposes of explaining the album to people. But it usually is it's a kind of a construct that's not real. If I'm being honest, it's just songs that I wanted to sing at that time, songs that I had a really good time singing and playing with Sullivan Fortner. And we just recorded as much as we could record, and then we narrowed things down to, I don't even know how many songs are on the album, but it's more about just what do we throw out, making those decisions. Other than that, I mean, I think it was just an opportunity to have a good time and deal with and develop those songs in the context of a duo, and more specifically in collaboration with Sullivan. So I mean, for me, that's what the album is, and the song choices are obviously still in the realm of the songs that I like to choose, and that means that they generally have some kind of interesting take on certain ideas, and they kind of have a certain, I don't know, I'm attracted to songs that are a little bit strange, that have a strangeness to them. So I guess that would be the through line. But other than that, there wasn't, it would be a lie to say that the album is about, I don't know. I don't know what people come up with sometimes, but it would, I don't want to create this elaborate story behind it.
And what I find most interesting about this release, Cecile, is the simplicity behind the sound. And being a pianist and vocalist myself, I very much appreciate the more intimate recordings such as these. And many have classified you as one of the forerunners in jazz music. I don't know if you would agree with that title, but certainly looking at the accolades and the awards and such, certainly you're one of the prominent figures in jazz music. And the art form is constantly evolving here in 2018. But there are a number of standards that have been around for many decades. The Gentleman is a Dope, for instance, coming back from the 1940s. In your opinion, why is it important that we continue to recognize these standards of the past? And you mentioned that there are some qualities within these songs that are unique or strange, in your opinion. But what makes them come alive here in the present?
Well, thank you for saying that. I do not necessarily agree with your initial statement, but I thank you for it. I don't know if it's important to play songs from the past. I don't know if it's important to uphold certain traditions. I don't have it as my mission to do these things. I just like those songs. I do like, I do have a fascination with the past and with history and with seeing how things evolve over time, and with seeing if things, if songs or ideas or pictures or paintings still have poignancy after a century or after 2 or 3 or 5 centuries. And this is a across the board. This isn't only in music, but in all art forms, in cooking, in all in language. I'm fascinated with the passage of time. I'm fascinated with creating bridges or going through kind of portals, if you will, to the past. I like that. However, I mean, yeah, again, I don't think that it's something that one has to do as like this moral thing, you know. It's just because I like it. And because I guess one thing that I can say is that we have more of a bird's eye view and more perspective on things that are 100 years old than on things that are happening right now, because we're too close to certain things, you know?
And speaking from a musical perspective and, you know, looking toward the past, this is your 5th release as, I guess, the leader, so to speak, on the album. How would you say that you have been able to grow as a musician and as an artist over these past few works?
I think I've just been doing music more, and I've been writing more, and I've been performing more. So just, I think with practice and with experience comes more ease, more comfort, and also, you know, that there's a certain amount of risk taking that's, like, I feel like I'm able to take certain risks and to try certain things that I maybe hesitated to do in the very beginning. And I think, you know, I'm getting to know myself. I'm getting to know the people that I work with a little bit more. And so, you know, it's towards this goal, but as I'm inching towards it, it also gets further and further away, you know?
I do understand. And I want to hit on a point that you mentioned about putting yourself out there, being able to express better. I had a voice teacher, actually a classical voice teacher. His name is Michael Forrest, and he was with the Metropolitan Opera House in New York for several years. And I had sung jazz before going into his studio. And I had always, when I would sing these standards, and some of them are on your album, I would sing them as I heard them or sing them extremely straight. And I remember when I went into his studio, he said, the magic to making music happen is being able to put yourself out there, to make the song your own.
Yeah.
And when I hear your performances, and this is not to, you know, a pat on the back necessarily or anything, but when I hear you perform, when I hear your recordings from the very first album that you put out several years ago to now, it comes across as very real, very natural. And I suppose the question is, does it come naturally, or is it something that with each song that you have to work with, that there's a certain sound that you're seeking that doesn't always come out the way that you hoped it would?
Well, thank you. I mean, I think usually, actually in every case, it doesn't come out the way I hoped it would. And I think that's just the case with everything, every creative endeavor. You know, what you have in your mind is always perfect, and it's always a certain thing. And then you do it, you try to execute it, and it always fails. You know, it never reaches the ideal. And that's part of the beauty of it. And that's also something to be celebrated, you know. But I think, you know, when it comes to songs now, for me, it's really always the lyric, the story. That's really where everything starts. And I guess it's less about developing it at home. Like, you know, if I find a song that I like, I'm not going to ruminate over it at home and think about like what the lyrics mean and what it means. But usually I'll have an idea and I'll perform it once for an audience, and I'll perform it maybe 10 times, and then maybe I'll have performed it 100 times, and it will have gone through many different transformations in that time. I'll have understood the song in a different way. I'll have picked up on certain melodic things. I'll have picked up on multiple meanings of sentences. You know, I think about a song like I Didn't Know What Time It Was, which is a song I've been singing for years, and I am starting to inch towards an understanding of what that song means, you know, after all of this time, after having recorded it already. And so there is a frustration with, like, you can never know you never know it enough to be ready to actually do something with it, but you kind of just take a risk. And for me, it's as long as I have a strong conviction of what the song is and what it means to me, then I go for it. And then usually, 10 years later, let's say, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so young. I had no idea what that meant. I had never lived that. But, there's something to just trying to take that initial leap. And part of it is also choosing songs, I think, that really mean something to you and really mean something, in my case, really mean something to me. There's certain songs that I just would rarely see myself singing because they just don't resonate with me,
I wish that we had more time to dig deeper in the discussion, but I know that there are several other folks waiting to talk to you. But I want to just, if we can look toward the future for a bit, this is the 5th album, and obviously it takes time to cultivate ideas and to plan things out. And you're going to be touring around this country as well as throughout Europe over the next few weeks. But what are your hopes for the future as far as continuing along in this career? A broad question, I know.
It's a broad question, and it's a tough one. I never, as much as I look to the past, I rarely look to the future. I have no idea, really. What is the thing that horses have on the side of their eyes? I have I'm so focused on right now, what am I doing? I'm not even really thinking about this album, to be honest. I'm thinking about this project that I did where basically I wrote all the music to this story and we're performing it in November. And so this is a new thing. And all of my focus is on that and how are we going to present it? Should we animate it? I'm making gloves, I don't think about my career and I don't think about the future. I never have a 5-year plan, but I guess my hope would be to be able to continue singing and have people still interested in what I have to say and what I have to sing. And maybe to approach things with a little bit more generosity, maybe to teach a little bit more, teaching is rough. Maybe to share a little bit more the little that I think I know about the music with people who are curious.
Quite the humble response, Cecile, and I know that so many have enjoyed your music over the past few years. And I hope with this album and whatever's to come in the future, that it brings many blessings and rewards down the road. Cecile, all the very best to you, and thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
The album is called The Window, and it's available from Mac Avenue Records. Cecile will be touring throughout the States and in Europe through the end of the year. You can find a complete list of her tour dates on the website, CecileMcLaurinSalvant.com. Our thanks to Cecile as well as our friends at Groove Marketing and DL Media Music for helping make this interview happen. Until next time, I'm Jay Daniels, thanking you for joining us in studio.